If you're thinking of flipping a home in 2025, you want to be extra careful because there's a lot of properties that can simply just drain your profits and it'll take you a very long time to sell them. You'll end up losing money instead of making money. So I'm going to show you exactly how you can avoid that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're buying a property that fits the kind of demand that's coming into the area. You're looking at market trends, stats. Typically in the Greater Toronto area or the Hamilton market where I do a lot of work, 3 beds are the most common type of homes, right? So you're gonna see 3 bed, 1 bath, 3 bed, 2 baths. Having the second bath is a huge plus. We're having buyers that are either multi-generational, so they have their parents living with them, their kids living with them, etc. So in a 3 bed home, you're gonna typically have at least 4 or 5 people. Having the 1 bath is normal, but having 2 is much better because we need people to have their privacy, feel like they're getting the space that they can live in for the next 5, 10 years, however long. So properties like these where you have the 3 bedrooms that are entry level, typically you're getting a solid demand because these fit the norm, right? Once you go to smaller, like a 2 bed, 1 bath, now immediately there's less space, there's less privacy. So you immediately cut out a bunch of the buyers. So you want to be really careful not to try to find deals that just appear to be better. So you might get a cheaper property. Let's say it even has the same amount of square footage, but now these 2 bedrooms are 1, and then you have a 2nd bedroom there and just 1 bath. Even that's a problem because to you or to me, it might be as simple as just creating a wall here, setting up a 2nd bedroom and creating 3 beds, but people cannot make those kinds of decisions, right? So people really want things simplified for them. They want to go online, find pictures, find the property description, 3 beds, 1 bath, 2 bath, whatever it is, come in, see exactly what they looked at online. They don't want to do renovations. Most people don't want to get into that, especially in this economy. So you got to be really careful because you might even get a property cheaper, maybe 50K less, maybe 75K less. But if the property doesn't fit the common trend in the area, right, you're going to lose money because people are just not going to want it. There's too many other options, and they might even pay a little bit more for those rather than your property because it'll serve them for the next 5 to 10 years. Remember, people are spending the most amount of money on houses. It's the biggest purchase of their life most of the time, right? So they're not going to cheap out on it. So just make sure you're not buying properties that are out of the norm for the area. Stick to the fundamentals, stick to the trends. So number 2, you want to make sure you're not getting into super heavy rentals that are full gut, there's structural issues, electrical, plumbing, multiple trades involved, unless you have a lot of experience with project management and you've done this a bunch of times and you have a solid crew. Because once you're getting into all these things, there's a separate individual specialized person you're hiring for each of them. And the challenge with that is you run up timelines, you have to vet them, and you're paying a lot more, right? So in basements like these, where you have a poured foundation, typically you're fine. But if you go to a really old property, sometimes there's a mix of different types of foundations. A lot of them have block foundations. There's more water possibly coming in. Usually you could still be fine if the properties are like 1940s and 50s or newer. But in areas like Toronto, Hamilton, you have a lot of older properties. So you want to be really careful to inspect foundations, inspect wiring. A lot of times the wiring running through these properties, you can't see it because it'll be drywalled like this, even if it's really old. So if there's a lot of question marks like that, better to avoid because you're spending tens of thousands of dollars, possibly at least a month or 2, as opposed to doing just a cosmetic renovation. And the biggest problem of it all is you won't really know how to do the thing that you're trying to do unless you've done it before. Obviously everyone has to start somewhere, but I wouldn't recommend it because it can end up costing you more than it'll make you. And sometimes, honestly, it's just better to buy a property where, you know, you just have to do paint, flooring, a little bit of drywall work, maybe very minor electrical, plumbing, and just have a predictable result as opposed to getting into something where the numbers look amazing, but you have to do a ton of work and it's not something you're experienced with. And then you end up just running up timelines, costs, and it ends up costing you at the end versus making you anything, right? So the third thing that's actually the opposite of the first one is you don't want to be the only one over renovating a property in a neighborhood where you have a specific type of property. So if you look at this neighborhood, there's a lot of bungalows, 2 stories that are about 1,100 to 1,500 square feet above grade, and they have a basement. Now, if you're picking up a property and you want to build an addition on top, it's going to end up costing you 6 figures. You're not necessarily going to get that money back for it because people don't necessarily want that much space in specific neighborhoods, right? So if you're spending 150K, you might end up losing 50K instead of making it. Just because you're adding multiple rooms, bedrooms, bathrooms, etc., it doesn't mean people will value it because they're looking for something very specific. They're already aware of what's happening in the neighborhood. They're looking at the pricing in that neighborhood. So you might pick it up for, let's say 600K, and then you end up spending 250K, but people are used to buying properties in the 700s here. Now you want 900 for it, they don't want to pay you that. The market is very price sensitive right now. It's better to find properties that match the existing neighborhood, and you're just basically finishing up the inside, finishing up basements, improving things. So just buy a rough property in the same neighborhood, make it look like some of the nicer properties in the neighborhood that match the area, and then make your money. Get a quicker sale. So in 2025, you want to be very careful if you're flipping a property. You don't want to spend too little and provide very little value, or overspend and overdo yourself, because the market is very sensitive right now to prices and the economy has a lot of uncertainty. So people want to make sure they're getting their money's worth. If you don't want to do all this hard work and you want vetted deals that are already underwritten with all the numbers already done for you, you can always reach out to me. Click the link below. You can book a call at the Calendly link, or you can go to my website if you want more information, or alternatively, just DM me on Instagram and we can have a conversation.